The FIA tried to delete data from McLaren's system, but Andrea Stella just brought it back to light. What they called unlawful optimization might actually be McLaren's hidden weapon. A protocol inside the MCL39 that the FIA once banned quietly reactivated in Mexico. And with it, Lando Norris delivered a pole lap that shook the foundations of Formula One. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez is a monster of physics. Over 2,000 meters above sea level, oxygen thins, grip disappears, and downforce collapses. The conditions destroy weak setups and humble even the most talented drivers. Yet, while others fought their cars through the first sector, Norris's McLaren looked like it was gliding. Smooth, balanced, untouched by the chaos that swallowed everyone else. He found grip where others found dust, precision where others found panic. It was the kind of control that doesn't come from luck or pure courage, it comes from intelligence, from trust between man and machine. That machine, the McLaren MCL39, had been under quiet scrutiny for months. Since mid-season, the FIA had restricted a calibration system within its thermal management network, a software tool that regulated brake temperature and aerodynamic flow across the rear bodywork. Officially, it was labeled a dynamic influence on aero balance. Unofficially, it was McLaren's secret advantage. Andrea Stella's engineers had spent months revising it, rewriting code, waiting for a window to bring it back. Mexico's altitude finally gave them that chance. With the FIA forced to relax its restrictions for cooling safety reasons, McLaren reinstated their system legally, carefully, and perfectly timed. From the outside, nothing looked different. But inside the data, everything changed. The car's thermal balance stabilized, the brake system remained within ideal temperature, and the aerodynamic load distribution became predictable again. That subtle recalibration gave Norris the tool he'd been missing for 5 consecutive races: confidence on entry. The MCL39 now responded instantly to steering input, staying composed under heavy braking. When Norris attacked turn 1, he knew exactly how the rear would behave: no uncertainty, no hesitation. What had once been a battle between grip and gravity became a seamless dance between precision and physics. On paper, Lando Norris's pole lap in Mexico looks like a simple number: 1 minute 15.586. But behind that figure lies a performance of almost mathematical perfection. Every corner, every brake input, every throttle trace aligned in a symphony of control. He didn't just beat Charles Leclerc by 0.2 and Hamilton by 4, he dominated the circuit. His telemetry showed almost no hesitation, no correction spikes, no instability. It was as if the car had been coded to his reflexes. The data from McLaren's onboard systems displayed a pattern engineers rarely see: perfect linearity. That kind of precision isn't luck. It's mastery built on understanding, patience, and trust between the driver and the machine. Across the garage, engineers were speechless as the lap unfolded. In Q2, Norris had already looked strong, but it was in Q3 where everything clicked. His sector times were not just quick, they were surgically consistent. In the first sector, where most drivers lost balance under braking into turn 1, Norris carried almost 2 km/h more entry speed and still managed to hit the apex perfectly. In the middle sector, he was smoother than anyone on throttle, his rear traction graph reading a flat line instead of the typical oscillation caused by wheel spin. Through the final stadium complex, he found 0.3 that no one else could explain. This wasn't just about power. It was about flow, the kind of mechanical harmony that happens when man and machine think as one. What startled the analysts wasn't just the speed but the transformation. McLaren had been nearly half a second behind Ferrari on Friday, struggling with grip and temperature management. Yet overnight, that gap turned into a lead. The difference wasn't in hardware, it was in logic, the recalibrated thermal management algorithm that Andrea Stella's team quietly restored. For months, this system had been locked away by the FIA under a directive meant to limit adaptive cooling influence on aerodynamic performance. But in Mexico's thin, oxygen-starved air, cooling became critical, and the FIA had to relax its own rule. McLaren saw the window, reinstated the algorithm, and the MCL39 woke up. The technical improvement was quantifiable. Brake temperature variance dropped by more than 30 degrees Celsius. The aerodynamic balance at high speed stabilized by 9%, measured through the car's onboard load sensors. Steering correction angles decreased dramatically. Norris's inputs were 12% smoother than his previous qualifying average. Those may sound like numbers on a screen, but in Formula One, they translate to something priceless: confidence. And when a driver like Norris has confidence, he becomes untouchable. He no longer drives reactively, he drives creatively, pushing the limits not out of desperation but out of certainty. Even rivals took notice. Ferrari engineers were seen studying McLaren's GPS traces long after the session, shaking their heads in disbelief. Red Bull's performance analysts, reviewing the data, reportedly called the MCL39 stability suspiciously clean. Yet the truth was simpler and more beautiful. McLaren hadn't cheated the rules, they'd understood them better. What the FIA called a potential influence, Stella had transformed into precision control. Every sensor, every micro-adjustment, every line of code worked in harmony with Norris's driving style. It was engineering intelligence turned into speed. To understand why Lando Norris's lap in Mexico was so extraordinary, you have to look beneath the orange paint and into the heart of McLaren's innovation. The MCL39 strength has always been balance, a perfect equilibrium between downforce and drag, but in recent months, that balance had vanished. Under FIA Directive TD47, McLaren was forced to disable its Adaptive Thermal Control Protocol, a system that fine-tuned airflow and brake cooling in real time. The FIA argued it risked influencing aerodynamic load without direct driver input. In simpler terms, it was too intelligent. What they didn't realize was that this intelligence was McLaren's soul. Once removed, the car became unpredictable. But in Mexico, under the cover of altitude and necessity, Andrea Stella's engineers found a way to restore it. The brilliance of McLaren's system lies in its subtlety. Rather than moving parts or active aero, it works through data, thousands of temperature readings per second, recalibrating airflow paths through the bodywork. The goal: keep the car thermally neutral, neither overheating nor overcooling, ensuring the aerodynamics stay consistent. In a place like Mexico City, where air density is thin and brake temperatures skyrocket, that control becomes the difference between a stable rear end and a car sliding out of rhythm. Stella's technical team, led by Davide Morelli and Peter Prodromou, reactivated the algorithm in its manual feedback loop mode, meaning it no longer operated automatically but through real-time engineer adjustments, a brilliant interpretation of the regulations wording. That change transformed everything. The rear of the MCL39, which had felt light and nervous in recent races, suddenly became planted. Brake pressure distribution remained consistent, even under intense load, allowing Norris to trail brake deeper into corners without losing stability. The aerodynamic platform, the invisible sheet of airflow that keeps an F1 car glued to the track, became steady and predictable. Data from McLaren's telemetry confirmed it. Yaw oscillation, the measure of side-to-side instability, dropped by nearly 30%. Through the high-speed Ss, Norris's steering inputs remained smooth and deliberate, allowing him to carry momentum where others fought against drag and turbulence. The MCL39 wasn't just fast, it was alive in his hands. For Norris, the difference was instantly perceptible. From the first push lap in Q1, he could feel the rear staying under him instead of drifting away. "It's stable everywhere," he radioed early in the session, a phrase that said more than any engineer could. That stability gave him the confidence to lean harder on the front end, attack braking zones with precision, and exit corners with earlier throttle application. Through turns 1, 4, and 12, telemetry showed that he gained over a tenth simply from earlier acceleration, not by luck, but by trust. The car wasn't second-guessing him anymore, it was following his intent. That synergy between driver and machine is the rarest element in Formula One, and when it happens, it looks effortless. Andrea Stella's leadership was central to making it happen. He didn't challenge the FIA directly, he outthought them. By classifying the updated protocol as a manual thermal correlation system, McLaren navigated around the technical ban while remaining fully compliant. Stella's approach wasn't confrontation, it was clarity. "The system is not new," he told journalists after qualifying. "It's the same logic we've always had, only applied under the current limits." Between the lines, the message was unmistakable: McLaren had never broken the rules. The FIA had simply misunderstood them. In Mexico, the rulebook finally caught up to McLaren's intelligence and the stopwatch showed the result. In the end, the MCL39's secret wasn't about finding extra power. It was about removing friction, mechanical, aerodynamic, and psychological. With the adaptive calibration reactivated, the car's personality changed. It became calm, predictable, obedient to the smallest of inputs. For a driver like Lando, Norris, methodical, analytical, and impossibly precise, that kind of platform turns potential into perfection. His lap wasn't a flash of brilliance, it was the product of 1,000 small victories inside McLaren's garage, each one earned by engineering audacity and driver faith. Mexico proved that when technology, trust, and talent converge, not even the FIA can hide genius forever.